The silence in the grand chamber of the High Synod was not merely an absence of sound. It was a physical weight, a crushing atmospheric pressure that pressed against the chitinous armor of the High Exarch and the soft, translucent robes of the stellar scholars alike. This was the heart of the Ethelgardian ascendancy, a sprawling station orbiting the trinary star system of Kalar, where the light of three suns filtered through the monolithic stained glass viewports, casting long, bloody shadows across the obsidian floor. Here, the fate of a dozen systems was usually decided with the stroke of a stylus or the hum of a grave gavel, but today there was no bureaucracy. Today there was only a primitive, visceral fear that transcended biology and politics, a fear that tasted like copper in the mouths of the gathered delegates. In the center of the room, suspended in a holographic containment field that shimmered with the instability of corrupted data, floated the image of the object. It was a jagged, brutal thing, a scar against the void, scarred by millennia of cosmic dust and micrometeoroid impacts, yet retaining a silhouette that triggered ancestral nightmares in the genetic memory of every species present. It was a ship, but it was not a ship of the ascendancy, nor of the merchant guilds, nor of the marauding pirates that skirted the rim. It was a corpse. A relic from a time before the current calendar, drifting out of the crushing dark of the abyssal gap, a region of space so devoid of stars and warmth that navigators called it the god blind. High Exarch Vorn, a towering figure of plated muscle and scarred carapace, shifted on his command dais, the servos of his ceremonial armor whining in the heavy silence. He was a warrior of the crawl, a species that had conquered half the sector through fire and discipline, yet his mandibles clicked with a nervousness he could not suppress. He looked down at the data stream scrolling beneath the hologram, the numbers defying the logic of their sensors. The object was cold, absolute zero. There was no thermal signature, no energetic output, no neutrino emissions that would suggest a reactor core. It was dead. It had to be dead. And yet the mass readings suggested a density that bent the starlight around it, a hull composition that their spectrometers could not identify, a metal that swallowed radar waves and refused to give them back. Vorn cleared his throat, a sound like grinding stones, and the noise echoed violently in the hush. The report claims this, Hulk. Drifted into the perimeter sensors of the 7th outpost 3 cycles ago, Vorn rumbled, his voice amplified by the acoustic architecture of the chamber. Why was it not vaporized immediately? Protocol for unidentified debris of this magnitude is disintegration. We do not drag garbage into the gravity well of the capital. Archscholar Myrus, a being of slender limbs and large, violet eyes that saw into the ultraviolet spectrum, stepped forward from the circle of scientists. Her species, the Xylos, were the brains of the ascendancy, the keepers of the archives and the masters of physics. She gestured with a 3-fingered hand, and the hologram zoomed in on the flank of the drifting ship. It was not destroyed, High Exarch, because the targeting computers refused to lock on, she said, her voice a melodic, harmonious hum that grated against Vorn's martial sensibilities. The automated defense grid identified the object not as debris and not as an enemy vessel. It identified it as a hazard of infinite complexity. The AI panicked. It chose avoidance over engagement, and when we sent the salvage drones to tow it, they reported a strange sensation. Vorn leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Machines do not feel sensations, scholar. They report data. Myrus hesitated, her skin flushing a darker shade of indigo, a sign of deep intellectual distress. The drone processors experienced a recursive loop of logic errors. They kept querying their own existence. It was as if the proximity to that hull forced the machines to question their own coding. We had to override them manually to bring it into the salvage bay. But that is not the most disturbing element, Exarch. Myrus tapped a command into her console, and the hologram shifted again, focusing on a section of the hull where the layers of accumulation had been laser-cleaned away, revealing a patch of dark, matte gray metal beneath. Etched into the surface, unmarred by the passage of 10,000 years, was a symbol. It was geometric, angular, and sharp, a simple vertical line intersected by a horizontal arc, enclosed in a triangle. We ran this sigil against the deep archives, Myrus whispered, the fear finally bleeding into her calm demeanor. We checked the precursor databanks, the myth cycles of the precursor races, and the forbidden texts of the dead era. We found a match. The chamber grew even quieter, if such a thing were possible. The air recycle. Seemed to stop. The 3 suns outside seemed to dim. It is the mark of the Terran coalition, she said, the words hanging in the air like a curse. A ripple of movement went through the assembly, a collective flinch. The Authari delegate, a priest of the energy-worshipping caste, covered his face with his cowl. The merchant princes muttered prayers to their prophet gods. Even Vorn stiffened, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. "The Terrans are a myth," Vorn barked, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. "A story told to hatchlings to make them behave. They were the destroyers, the plague that burned itself out before the ascendancy was even born. They died. They killed their own planet, then they killed their colonies, and then they vanished into the dark. There are no humans left. There haven't been for 10,000 cycles." Myris looked up at him, her large eyes filled with a terrified certainty. "We thought so too, Exarch. We taught that history, but carbon dating does not lie. This ship is 12,000 years old. It predates the Great Silence. And the scans, Exarch, the scans indicate that the internal atmosphere is still pressurized. The structural integrity is 100%. This is not a wreck. It is a tomb or a sleeper cell." Vorn stood up, his height dominating the room. "Then we crack it open," he declared, the warrior instinct taking over the fear. "If it is a tomb, we loot it. If it is a weapon, we dismantle it. If there are corpses inside, we burn them to ensure the plague does not return. I will not have a monument to the mythical monsters of the past drifting in our harbor." "Wait," interrupted Prelate Kalen of the Authari, his voice a sibilant hiss that seemed to originate inside the listeners' heads rather than their ears. He glided forward, his robes trailing on the floor like smoke. "You speak of metal and atmosphere, of weapons and loot, but you are blind to the screaming." Vorn glared at the priest. "Speak plainly, mystic, or be silent." Kalen pointed a trembling finger at the hologram. "The psychic resonance of that vessel is deafening. It is not dead. It is sleeping, and it is dreaming. I can feel the minds inside, not one, not 10, thousands. They are in a state of suspension, deep and cold like the space between galaxies, but they are beginning to stir. The proximity to our reactors, the active scans. We are waking them up, and the flavor of their minds. It is not like ours. It is cold, logical, relentless, but underneath. There is a sorrow so deep it could drown a star." Vorn snorted derisively. "Sorrow. The legends say humans were rabid beasts. They knew only war." Kalen lowered his hand, his hood obscuring his eyes. "Perhaps the legends were written by those who feared them, or perhaps we are about to learn why they left." The debate raged for hours, a circular firing squad of fear, greed, and curiosity. The militarists wanted to vaporize it immediately, fearing a dormant virus or a doomsday weapon. The scientists wanted to board it, salivating at the prospect of archaeotech that could advance their civilization by centuries. The spiritualists wanted to tow it back to the dark and leave it as an offering to the void. But while they argued, while the politics of the ascendancy churned in its usual inefficient cycle, the object in the salvage bay began to change. It started subtly. A vibration in the deck plates of the station, a low-frequency hum that was felt in the bones rather than heard. Then the power grid of the station began to fluctuate. Lights flickered. Gravity generators hiccuped. In the grand chamber, the hologram of the ship flickered and stabilized, sharpening in resolution. "Exarch." A technician shouted from the sensor pit, his voice cracking. "Energy spike detected. It's coming from the object." Vorn spun around. "Is it a weapon charge?" "No, I don't know. It's massive. It's pulling power from the ambient vacuum. It's draining the localized zero-point field. By the gods, the efficiency is impossible. It's sucking in energy like a black hole, but it's channeling it. It's channeling it internally." On the main view screen, which showed the live feed from the salvage bay, the dark gray hull of the human ship began to glow. Not with the harsh blue of plasma or the angry red of fusion, but with a soft, steady amber light. Lines of illumination traced their way across the jagged hull, revealing geometry that had been hidden by the grime. The ship was not just a block of metal. It was a work of art, a cathedral of engineering. The accumulation of 10,000 years slewed off in great sheets as the hull polarized, shaking free the dust of the ages. The jagged silhouette smoothed out as armor plates shifted and locked into combat positions. It was beautiful and it was terrifying. "It is activating," Myris whispered, her datapad falling from her numb fingers. "It is waking up." Vorn slammed his fist onto the console, targeting batteries. "Lock onto that vessel. If it makes a move, turn it into slag." "We can't," the technician screamed back. "Our targeting systems are offline. The ship, it has seized control of our local network. It's rewriting our firewalls in real time. It's not attacking us. It's locking us out of our own guns." The hum grew louder, a resonant chord that seemed to harmonize with the very structure of the station. Then abruptly the hum ceased. The lights in the grand chamber stabilized. The hologram vanished, replaced by a single, stark message on every screen in the room, in the station, in the entire fleet docked outside. It was not text. It was a waveform, an audio file, and then a voice spoke. It did not speak the trade tongue of the ascendancy, nor the guttural dialects of the crawl. It spoke a language of hard consonants and flowing vowels, a language that hadn't been heard in the galaxy for an epoch. The station's translation matrix groaned under the load, cycling through dead lexicons until it found the root code. The translation appeared on the main screen, syncing with the voice that thundered through the speakers. The voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. It sounded like a parent waking up to find children playing with a loaded gun. This is the UNSC Silent Vigil. Designate heavy cruiser ARC class. System restart complete. Chronometer synchronization. Error, time elapsed since hibernation. Error, external scan complete. You are attempting to target this vessel. Cease. Vorn stared at the screen, his mandibles trembling. It speaks, he muttered. It commands. He grabbed the communication link. This is High Exarch Vorn of the Kralian Ascendancy. You are in violation of our territorial space. You have compromised our defense grid. Power down your vessel and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you. There was a pause, a silence that stretched for 10 seconds. Then the voice returned, sounding slightly more alert, perhaps even amused. Kralian Ascendancy. No record found in historical database. Assessing tactical capabilities of surrounding fleet. Assessment complete. Your weapons are primitive plasma-based accelerants. Your shields are frequency static. You pose a 0.03% threat to this hull. Recommendation, do not fire. You will only damage your own optics with the feedback. The arrogance of the statement stunned the room. Vorn, enraged, roared, fire, manual override, fire everything. Outside, in the vacuum of the salvage bay, the station's internal defense turrets swiveled. The gunners, terrified and acting on instinct, pulled the triggers. Beams of superheated plasma capable of melting through an asteroid lashed out at the amber-lit ship. They struck the hull, and then they vanished. There was no explosion, no debris. The energy simply washed over the matte metal and was absorbed. The amber lights on the ship pulsed brighter for a second, as if the vessel had just taken a deep breath. Inside the chamber, the lights surged. Kinetic energy absorption nominal, the voice said, sounding almost bored. Thermal energy converted to reserve power. Thank you for the jumpstart. Our primary reactors were running low on ignition mass. The realization hit Myris like a physical blow. They eat energy, she gasped. They don't block it, they eat it. Attacking them only makes them stronger. The ship began to move. It didn't use thrusters that flared with chemical exhaust. It moved via gravitational manipulation. It simply decided to be somewhere else, and the universe obliged. It drifted out of the salvage bay, passing through the magnetic containment field as if it were smoke. As it cleared the station's superstructure and entered open space, the full scale of it became apparent. It was massive, kilometers long, a spearhead of darkness against the stars. And as it turned, its flank opened. Not a weapon port, but a hangar bay. A small shuttle, sleek and silver, shot out of the bay and sped toward the station's command spire. We requested a cessation of hostilities, the voice said. You responded with force. However, we analyzed that your aggression is born of fear, not malice. We are authorized to initiate diplomatic protocols. A delegation is inbound. Do not intercept. If you fire on the shuttle, we will dismantle your station's reactor core remotely. Vorn collapsed into his throne, defeated not by battle, but by the sheer, overwhelming superiority of the entity he faced. Let them land, he rasped. Let us see the faces of the ghosts. The docking bay of the grand chamber was lined with guards, their weapons raised but shaking. The airlock cycled, steam hissed. The heavy blast doors groaned open, and out walked three figures. They were bipedal, encased in armor that looked like a second skin, sleek, articulated plates of white and gold. They wore helmets with opaque faceplates. They did not march. They walked with a fluid, predatory grace. They carried no visible weapons, yet the air around them seemed to shimmer with latent power. The central figure stopped 10 paces from Vorn and the assembled council. With a hiss of pneumatics, the helmet retracted, folding away into the collar of the suit. The face revealed was pale, with skin that looked like it hadn't seen a sun in centuries. The eyes were dark, intelligent, and incredibly old. It was a human male, perhaps in his prime by their standards, but the lines around his eyes spoke of eons. He looked at Vorn, then at Myris, then at the terrified Authari priest. He didn't look like a monster. He didn't look like a destroyer. He looked tired. I am Commander Valerius, the human said, his voice unamplified yet carrying to every corner of the room. And you have awoken us too early. The silence that followed was broken by Myris. Too early? She asked, her curiosity overriding her fear. You have been asleep for 12,000 years. Your civilization is dust. Your worlds are overgrown. We thought you were extinct. Valerius looked at her, and a sad smile touched his lips. Extinct? No, we are not extinct. We are Dormant, we are the night's watch, the gardeners in the winter. He stepped closer to the hologram that still displayed his ship. You call us the destroyers. I know your history. I have downloaded your archives in the last 5 minutes. You think we burned the galaxy and killed ourselves in a fit of madness. He shook his head slowly. We did not destroy our worlds. We harvested them. We stripped them of resources, yes. We took every ounce of metal, every drop of deuterium, every gram of fissile material, and we built the Great Fleet. Why, Vorn demanded, finding his voice. Why destroy your own cradle? To build the wall, Valerius said simply. The room was confused. The wall? Vorn asked. Valerius tapped his wrist computer and the giant holographic projector in the center of the room changed. It showed the galaxy a swirling spiral of light. Then it zoomed out, past the halo stars, past the satellite dwarf galaxies, into the deep, empty void between the Milky Way and Andromeda. There in the darkness was a line, a thin, red line of static. There is something in the dark, Valerius said, his voice dropping to a whisper that chilled the blood of everyone present. We found it when we first invented faster-than-light travel. We heard the signal. It wasn't a greeting. It was a hunger, a cosmic imperative to consume. It comes from the void between galaxies, a swarm of biological machines that eat stars, that drink gravity. He gestured to the red line. They were coming here. 12,000 years ago, our long-range listening posts heard the vanguard. We calculated the arrival time. We had 2 centuries. That was not enough time to uplift the other races. You were all still in the mud, banging stones together, or just discovering fire. If we tried to warn you, you wouldn't have understood. If we tried to fight them here, the collateral damage would have wiped you out anyway. Valerius looked at the faces of the aliens, the Crawl, the Xylos, the Authari. His expression softened. So we made a choice, the hardest choice in the history of our species. We decided to leave. We took everything we needed to fight. We dismantled our cities to build dreadnoughts. We mined our moons to build ammunition. We turned our backs on the paradise we were born in, and we marched into the dark to meet them before they could reach the galaxy. The revelation washed over the chamber like a tidal wave. The Terran scourge wasn't a plague, it was a sacrifice. They hadn't fled, they had gone to the front line. We fought them in the void for 10,000 years, Valerius continued. A war in the dark where no light shines. We held the line, we broke their vanguard, we shattered their main swarm, but the cost was high. Billions of us died in the cold, ships the size of moons were lost, but we won, we turned them back. He looked down at his hands. My ship, the Silent Vigil, was a straggler, damaged in the final skirmish. We lost our navigation drives, we drifted. We went into cryostasis, hoping to drift back to the warmth of the home galaxy. We didn't know if anyone would be left. We didn't know if life had survived. He looked up, his eyes blazing with a sudden intensity. But we see you now. You have built an empire, you have art and science and trade. You have squabbled and fought, yes, but you are alive. Our sacrifice was not in vain. Vorn, the mighty exarch, felt small. He looked at this human, this ancient warrior who spoke of a war that made the Ascendancy's conflicts look like playground squabbles. If you won, Vorn asked quietly, then why did you say we woke you too early? Valerius's face hardened. The sadness vanished, replaced by the cold, logical look of a military commander. Because the signal has started again, he said. He manipulated the hologram. The red line in the void was gone, but now, from a different vector from the chaotic region known as the Magellanic Clouds, a new pulse was visible, a rhythmic, throbbing purple light. The swarm we fought was a tendril, a scout force. We thought we had killed the brain. We were wrong, we just cut off a finger. He pointed to the purple pulse. That is the main body, and it has changed course. It knows we are here, it knows the galaxy is rich in life. The silence returned, but this time it was not the silence of fear, but of horror. They are coming, Myrus whispered. How long? 50 years, Valerius replied. Maybe 60. They are slow, but they are inevitable. He looked around the room, meeting the gaze of every delegate. My ship is damaged. I cannot fight them alone. The rest of the human fleet is scattered across the void, drifting, sleeping, or dead. We need to recall them. We need to wake the sleepers. He paused. But more importantly, we need you. Us, Vorn scoffed, though the arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate hope. You said our weapons are primitive. We are children compared to you. You were children, Valerius corrected. Now you are adolescents. You have resources. You have fleets. You have the industrial capacity of 1,000 systems. We have the technology. We have the knowledge. We have the maps of the enemy. He stepped forward, extending a hand, a gesture of peace that transcended species. We cannot hold the line alone anymore. We are too few, but together. If we combine your numbers with our tech, if we mount our shields on your hulls, if we teach your AIs how to think like us, He let the sentence hang. The humans are not the masters of the galaxy. We are the shield, but a shield needs an arm to hold it. Will you be that arm? The politics of the Grand Chamber evaporated. The petty squabbles over trade routes and border taxes dissolved instantly in the face of the existential threat. Vorn stood up. He did not bow, for a Krall never bows, but he slammed his fist to his chest in the salute of a subordinate to a general. The Kralian ascendancy stands with the Terran Guard, he roared. Myris stepped forward. The Xylos Science Directorate pledges all research facilities to the integration effort. The Authari prelate glided forward. We will sing the waking songs. We will help you find your lost brothers in the dark. Valerius nodded, a look of immense relief washing over his ancient features. Then let us begin. There is much work to do, and the night is closing in. ACT-2, the integration and the reveal. The months that followed the awakening of the Silent Vigil were a period of chaos and unprecedented evolution for the Ascendancy. The human ship did not dock. It became the center of a new city in space. Engineers from 100 species flocked to the hull of the ancient dreadnought, their shuttles looking like gnats buzzing around a leviathan. The humans, though few in number, the crew of the Vigil numbered only 3,000, were tireless. They were biologically enhanced, needing only a few hours of sleep, their minds augmented by neural laces that allowed them to interface directly with computers. To the aliens, they appeared as demigods of logic and efficiency. There was friction, of course. The Krall military chafed under the humans' dismissal of their honor-bound tactics. Honor does not stop a neutron beam, Valerius told Vorn during a tactical simulation. The enemy does not care about your bravery. It cares about your biomass. You fight to survive, not to look good. It was a harsh lesson, but when Valerius took control of a Krall destroyer squadron remotely and executed a maneuver that annihilated a pirate fleet with 0 casualties, the Krall learned to listen. The Xylos scientists were in ecstasy. The humans shared the secrets of zero-point energy extraction, of transdimensional shielding, of medical nanites that could cure plagues in minutes. But with the knowledge came a terrifying realization of the scale of the human war. Myris, working alongside a human engineer named Sarah, discovered the logs of the Vigil's armory. These weapons, Myris said, pointing to a schematic of a Nova Cracker missile. This is designed to destabilize a star. You blew up stars. Sarah, a woman with a cybernetic arm and eyes that looked like liquid mercury, nodded grimly. To deny the enemy fuel, we created corridors of dead space, scorched Earth on a galactic scale. It's not something we're proud of, Myris. It's something we had to do. But the biggest reveal came 6 months into the Alliance. The repairs on the Silent Vigil were complete. The main reactor was fully online, fed by the refined antimatter from the Ascendancy's stockpiles. Valerius summoned the High Council to the bridge of the human ship. It was a space of Spartan utility, no stained glass, no statues, just screens, holographic tanks, and the hum of immense power. We are ready, Valerius announced. The Vigil is combat capable, but we are just one ship. To fight the swarm, we need the fleet. You said they were scattered, Vorn said. How do we find them? We don't search, Valerius said. We call. He turned to the tactical officer. Initiate the Omega Protocol, unseal the transtemporal beacon. The ship shuddered. Deep within its core, a device that defied the laws of physics activated. It didn't transmit radio waves. It didn't transmit subspace signals. It transmitted a ripple through time itself. A signal that said, we are here. The war is not over. Wake up. The sensor screens in the room lit up like a Christmas tree, but not with local contacts. The rangefinders were zooming out, and out, and out, across the galaxy in nebulae and asteroid fields buried beneath the ice of frozen moons and drifting in the deep dark. Signals began to blink green. 1, then 10, then 100, then thousands. By the 3 suns, Kalen gasped. They are everywhere. We left them behind, Valerius explained. Sleeper ships, automated dreadnoughts, arsenal worlds. We hid them before we left, just in case we failed, just in case we needed a fallback. They have been sleeping for 12,000 years, waiting for the authorization code. He looked at the map, which was now speckled with green dots all over the Ascendancy's territory. You have been living on top of our armories. You have been mining asteroids that were actually camouflaged cruisers. One of the dots was blinking closer, right inside the Kaler system. Exarch, Valerius said. You know the moon of Kaler Prime, the one you call the Dead Rock? Vorn nodded. It is a wasteland, high radiation, uninhabitable. Valerius smiled. Watch. He typed a command. On the main view screen, the image of the gray, cratered moon appeared. Then the surface began to crack. Massive fissures opened up miles deep. The crust of the moon crumbled away, revealing not rock but metal. The radiation shielding dropped. The moon was not a moon, it was a factory, a planetary-scale shipyard. As the dust cleared, the sleek, predatory shapes of 1,000 escort frigates were revealed, racked in silent rows, preserved in vacuum. The Titan Foundry, Valerius said, capable of printing a cruiser every 12 hours, and it has a full stockpile of raw materials. He turned to the stunned aliens. We didn't just leave you a ship, we left you an inheritance. Now let's go get the keys. ACT-3, the Unity and the Twist. The next year was a blur of mobilization. The Ascendancy transformed. It was no longer a loose coalition of squabbling species, it was a war machine. The Moon Foundry was brought online, crewed by Crawl workers and Xylos engineers under human supervision. The sleeper ships across the galaxy were located and awakened. Some were empty, their crews long dead from malfunction. Others were fully operational, their AI captains waking up with a thirst for orders. The human fleet, once a myth, was now the backbone of the combined armada. But the humans were different. They were not the conquerors the aliens expected. They were melancholy. They spent their off-duty hours in the gardens of the station, staring at the flowers with a reverence that confused the Crawl. They played music, complex, heartbreaking symphonies that made the Authari weep. "Why are you so sad?" Myrus asked Valerius one evening as they watched the shipyard lights. "You are powerful, you are immortal, you are saving the galaxy." "We are sad because we know what is coming," Valerius said softly. "War is not glorious, Myrus, it is a waste. Every ship we build is a failure of diplomacy. Every shot we fire is a testament to the fact that intelligence has failed to find a better way. We fight because we must, not because we want to. And we know that even if we win, we will lose. We will lose friends. We will lose worlds. We will lose a piece of our souls." He looked at her. "That is why we need you. You still have hope. You still have joy. We used ours up a long time ago. We are the cold steel. You are the hand that warms it." The deadline approached. The purple pulse from the Magellanic clouds grew brighter. Long-range sensors confirmed the swarm. It was a cloud of biomass light-years across. Trillions of bioships, ranging from fighter-sized parasites to moon-sized hive minds. They stripped systems bare. They left nothing but dust. The Alliance fleet gathered at the edge of the galaxy, at the red line Valerius had drawn. It was the largest gathering of ships in history. Millions of Ascendancy vessels, bolstered by the ancient Terran dreadnoughts, a wall of fire and steel. The battle, when it came, was not a skirmish. It was a collision of tectonic plates. The swarm hit the fleet like a tsunami. Space was filled with the silent screams of dying ships. Lasers carved through flesh, plasma boiled chitin. The Terran dreadnoughts fired their Nova crackers, detonating gas giants to create shockwaves that vaporized. Millions of enemy craft. The Crawl fought with a fury that impressed even the humans, boarding the bioships and fighting with blades and claws in the corridors. The Xylos coordinated the fire, their minds merged with the battlenet, finding weak points in the hive mind's coordination. For 3 weeks the battle raged. The line buckled, but it did not break. The silent vigil with Valerius at the helm was in the thick of it, taking punishment that would have destroyed a planet, its shields flaring like a dying sun. "They are adapting," Valerius shouted over the chaos of the bridge. "They are shifting their shield frequencies, remodulate the main batteries." "Commander," Sarah yelled, "we have a problem, the Hive Queen, the central node. It's not in the rear, it's here, it just dropped out of warp right on top of us." A tear in space opened, and a monstrosity emerged. It was the size of a small planet, a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes and teeth. It latched onto the silent vigil with gravity tethers, crushing the shields. "We are trapped," the tactical officer screamed, "hull integrity failing." Vorn's face appeared on the comms. "Commander, we are coming, hold on." "No," Valerius ordered. "Stay back. If it grabs you, it will absorb your biomass and learn your secrets. This is a command, Exarch, stay back." "I do not take orders from a suicide note," Vorn roared. The Crawl flagship, the Fist of Kaler, rammed its engines to maximum. But instead of firing, Vorn did something unexpected. He hailed the vigil. "Valerius, the Nova Cracker, you have one left in the magazine. Detonate it." "That will kill us all," Valerius shouted. "It will vaporize the vigil and the Queen." "And it will save the galaxy," Vorn yelled. "Do it, human, show us how to be the wall." Valerius looked at his crew. They nodded. There was no fear, only the acceptance of duty. He looked at the screen, at the alien fleet fighting for their home. He smiled. "It has been an honor, Exarch." Valerius's hand hovered over the key, but before he could press it, a signal burst through the chaos. It didn't come from the swarm, it didn't come from the Alliance, it came from behind the swarm, from the void. It was a signal of such power that it overrode every comm channel, every sensor, every mind. It was a musical tone, pure, perfect. The swarm froze, the bioship stopped moving, even the Queen seemed to shudder and recoil. Valerius paused. Sensor sweep, what is that? Reading, massive energy signature, Sarah gasped. Behind the swarm, it's impossible. Emerging from the darkness of intergalactic space, dwarfing even the swarm queen, came a shape. It was a perfect sphere, white and pristine, the size of a star. And trailing behind it were thousands of ships, sleek white, evolving designs that looked like angels made of metal. A face appeared on the screen. It was human, but it was different, evolved, glowing with an internal light. "This is High Admiral Hestia of the Terran Ascendancy," the figure said, her voice sounding like a choir. "We received your distress call, Commander Valerius. We apologize for the delay. We were further out than we thought." Valerius stared. "The Terran Ascendancy, we are the Terran Guard." "You are the rear guard, Valerius," Hestia said gently. "You stayed behind to hold the door. We went out to find the source. We went to the Andromeda Galaxy. We conquered it. We evolved, and now we have returned." The white sphere pulsed. A beam of light, pure and focused, shot out and struck the swarm queen. There was no explosion. The queen simply ceased to exist. It was deatomized, erased from the universe. The white fleet swarmed forward, their weapons functioning on physics the older humans couldn't even comprehend. They didn't just destroy the swarm, they cured it. The bioships were neutralized, their aggression centers surgically removed by energy beams, turning them into drifting, harmless meat. Within an hour, the war was over. The swarm was gone. The silent vigil drifted, battered and broken, next to the godlike sphere of the returned Terrans. Vorn, Myrus, and Valerius stood on the bridge, watching the white ships clean up the battlefield. "You went to another galaxy?" Vorn asked, his voice hushed. "You conquered a galaxy." "We had to grow up," Valerius whispered, tears streaming down his face. "We thought we were alone, we thought we were the last." Hestia's shuttle docked. She walked onto the bridge, towering over them, radiating a sense of peace that made the knees weak. She looked at the aliens, then at the weary crew of the Vigil. "You did well," she said. "You held the line, you protected the cradle." She turned to Vorn. "And you? You stood with them, you proved that this galaxy is worth saving." "What happens now?" Myrus asked. "Do you rule us? Are you the new gods?" Hestia laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "No, we have our own realms beyond the void. The universe is infinite. Indeed, we have only just begun to explore it. We will repair your worlds, we will share our knowledge, but we will not rule. We are the explorers. You," she gestured to the humans and the aliens standing together. "You are the builders. You have forged an alliance in fire. Keep it. Build a civilization that doesn't need a wall." She turned to Valerius. "Come, Commander, your watch is ended. The Vigil has earned its rest. We have new ships for you, faster ships. We are going to the Great Attractor. There is a signal there, something new, something wonderful. We want you to come with us." Valerius looked at Vorn. The giant crawl warrior extended a hand. "Go," Vorn said. "We will watch the gate now, we know how." Valerius took the hand. "Don't let the fire go out, Vorn." "Never," Vorn promised. And as the great white sphere turned back toward the deep dark, taking the ancient guardians to a new frontier, the galaxy behind them was no longer a place of silence and fear. It was loud with the construction of a new future, a future where humans were not a myth of the past, but the promise of what could be, and where the aliens who had once feared the dark now looked up at the stars and saw not threats, but friends waiting to be made. The silent vigil remained, a museum and a monument orbiting the triple suns. Etched on its hull was a new inscription, added by the crawl, "Here sleep the giants. Tread softly and be kind, for they are watching."